the animal that's lying up in the road ahead of us, as well as his mother and another male leopard. So it's Shadow, Tingana, and Sindile, and all the ongoings that we've seen with them mating and Shadow rejoining with Sindile after calling for about an hour in search of him. Anyway, those will be some of the highlights. We will also be discussing the Nkuhuma Pride, as well as the Birmingham Boys and the Matimbas, and the big changes in the lion dynamics that we can expect to see in the coming months. We are really in the hot zone, right in the middle of this territorial war that's going on between 5 young males and 2 older ones. Anyway, let's go and take a closer look. And on the way there, you must remember that this is a live safari, so it's happening this very second, and it's great to have all of you with us. But what's even better than it just being live is that you can also interact with us and send us questions and comments, and to do so is very simple. You would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv, and that way you can ask either Brent or myself questions. We got off to a very, very lucky start here. And Valerie has already sent through a comment saying it's a good day when you start off with the cats. And yes, you're right, Valerie, it certainly is. We were actually on our way to go and take a closer look at. Tell you a little bit more about that. Let's take a closer look at Sindile. He's such a beautiful young male. More about that. Let's take a closer look at Sindile. He's such a beautiful young male leopard, and we've been so fortunate to spend so much time with him over the last few weeks and months. It's quite a cool afternoon, about 17 degrees Celsius and 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, he just attempted to catch a fly. Maybe he did. And that's why he's happy to lie out in the open. He doesn't need to seek shade, as he did yesterday when it was a lot warmer. And he hasn't seen his mother now for almost 48 hours, I would say. The whole of yesterday, she was away, and she probably left him late the night before last, before meeting up with Tingana. I beg your pardon, that's 2 days ago. So it's at least more than 48 hours now that he's been alone. Thankfully, though, he can fend for himself, albeit not nearly as well as with his mother's help, but he can catch prey, and he probably does do quite a lot of hunting without us knowing, and can sustain himself even if his mother is away for a few days. And it is also important to remember that cats can survive for 5, 6, 7 days quite easily without a meal. As I was saying, that Andrew and myself were headed off onto Arethusa. Stefan and myself came out for about 2 hours in between drive, attempting to track them. We did find tracks of them crossing from Djuma into Arethusa. It looks like Junior could potentially have rejoined along with the other lioness, judging from the tracks, but it was difficult to tell. But then we ran out of time. The last tracks we had were heading down kind of towards the Arethusa Dam. So we are going to head off there a little bit later, and maybe we'll leave that decision up to you as to when we should leave young Sindile before heading off in search of the Nkuhumas. A lot of the Arethusa vehicles headed further east to some other properties that they can traverse on Nkoro and Vet. vessels, and there's 2 Matimbas with 4 sticks lioness and 1 young cub, somewhere on a property called Vessels, and the 5 Birmingham boys are on in Coral. Interestingly enough, there's another pride of lion that we don't ever see or have yet to see called the Talamati pride, and I believe there's 6 individuals in that pride. Well, at least there were 6 of them, and they were located on Buffels Hook this morning. So lots of lions around, and we're going to try our best to find some more for you this evening. Into the bush, I know there's a lot of steenbuck that move through this area, and wouldn't that be a perfect size prey for him? Not too big. Who knows, maybe that we have seen him with, that he has made. But that's not to say he hasn't made many, many more. Well, thanks, Andrew, for taking us through that area where he is searching, but he seems to have lost focus, and his body language is now relaxed again. One thing that I forgot to mention about this evening's fireside chat is that James will be performing another one of his wonderful songs, and it's actually not one of his own songs, but one of my favorite songs with some of, and it's going to be great singing along to him around the fire tonight. He's incredibly talented, not only in the bush, but also around the fire with the guitar. Mentioned that he's been away from his mother Shadow for quite some time now, and Lynn has just sent through a question wondering how far away is he from where she last left him. Well, we don't know exactly where she did last leave him, but it was roughly 500 to 600 meters to the west of us, basically on the boundary of Djuma and Arathusa. So he hasn't actually moved very far away at all. In some scenarios, he's moved surprisingly big distances without his mother, but now he seems to be content lurking around here. Wouldn't it be nice to know if her and Tingana are still mating? I haven't heard any word of that, but it certainly is possible. So he could be alone for another day or two, as leopards and lions can mate from anywhere from 3 to 5 days. Look at his little tail twitching there. Maybe there's something up ahead that's exciting him. What a stunning view this is. I'm sure a lot of you are asking the question, is it not dangerous for him to be lying in the middle of the road, and do animals ever get injured? I certainly know that Alice has sent through that very question, and very seldomly do animals get run over in the Sabi Sands. Everyone tends to stick to reasonable speeds. And Alice is all the way in Ohio. We love to know where you are sending these questions from, so please make sure you add that into emails or your tweets. And we must remember, Alice, that these animals have got extremely good senses, and they can hear vehicles coming. And I've actually watched Sindile. He's heard vehicles long before we've been able to, but his body language alerted me to look back down these long roads, and in all instances he moved off the road long before vehicles got anywhere close to him. It's a perfect place for him to stalk along because the road is slightly lower than the vegetation around him, and it looks like he may be using it to stalk. Let's watch closely here. Oh, this is looking good. I know we're not close by, but it's still better for us to just sit here and wait and see what happens rather than interfering. I think as he gets closer, you may notice him lower his body more and more to the ground. And I wonder what it is that he's stalking up ahead. That could be a mongoose to a francolin, who knows, maybe a steenbok or a duiker. I think we can afford to creep forward a bit further without interfering. You see, that's a good example of how good their hearing and reactions are. As I turned on the vehicle, you got a bit of a fright. I'm quite surprised though. And you saw him look back at us immediately. Oh, look at him running ahead now. Oh, well, he went for it, whatever it was. Oh, I saw a mongoose running down the road. He was after a mongoose. I think he may have got something, though. His tail's flicking wildly. Oh, it was a squirrel. He's up in the tree. This is going to be incredible. Watch closely. Watch here. The squirrel's in trouble. You can hear the squirrel alarming at him. He's going to possibly try and climb up this dead marula and try and get to it. His tail flicking wildly from side to side, and I thought he may have caught one. But it was obviously him going around in circles chasing this poor squirrel. Will he continue, or has he given up? Come on, Sindile. Go and show that squirrel how agile you are. He's trying to plan a route up there, but not having much joy. You're going up the wrong tree. But this is still absolutely wonderful to see. Aren't we all so lucky? We've been saying that a lot over the last few days. Those who have only joined us recently to realize that we have been having some incredible sightings. You see, I think this squirrel doesn't have anything to worry about because it can quite comfortably get from the marula tree that it's currently in into this bush willow tree that Sindile's in. But he's going higher up. I'm sure he spent many hours hunting squirrels before. Oh, that's risky. That's a very rotten marula branch that he's leaning on. It's actually fallen down from the marula tree that the tree squirrel's in. Oh, this could end badly. Everyone get ready to get screenshots of Sindile making a fool of himself. Oh, Come down from there, Sindile, enough's enough. It must be so frustrating for him. The squirrel hasn't moved an inch, it's still high up above him, tail flicking as it falls. I think you certainly would be able to get up the other tree that the squirrel is in, albeit a very rotten marula. I don't think he would have any trouble getting up there. I think the only catch is that once he does go up there, the squirrel's just going to jump across with absolute ease into the other tree. So it's great to see him trying this hard. What may happen is that the squirrel may panic and run down and leave the marula on it and try and move to another tree, and that may give Sindile an opportunity to jump down onto the ground and chase it down. Look at the tails of the squirrel. It reminds me of those small toys that you would get in lucky packets with sweets that you blow at birthdays and at Christmas. So it's a little bit easier for him going up now. Coming down is going to be interesting. Let's see what his next moves are. Is he going to try and get up this marula tree? Now, it'll be very interesting to see if he does try and climb up this marula tree. Like I said, it's very rotten, and the bark is bound to break off as he tries to climb up. No luck this time, but we'll be more than happy for you to keep trying. I think he's realized this is not going to be a useful opportunity to continue pursuing. And luckily he's heading back into Djuma. Everything on the left we can access, but on the right we cannot. So, oh, interestingly enough, I've seen a whole colony of dwarf mongooses that he's heading directly towards on a termite mound in the distance. And as Andrew zooms across, you will see that there's a large termite mound up to the left of your screen, and there's a whole family of dwarf mongooses looking on intently. So we are going to start to hear their alarm calls if he continues in their direction. He's looking back longingly at the squirrel now, who is the proud victor of this battle. Well done, little squirrel. And he escaped the stealth of a leopard. I've just heard the first alarm call ring out from the dwarf mongooses, and that's what stopped him and caused him to cock his head off to the right. Wow. I wonder what his next quarry will be. I think he may very well continue to entertain us this afternoon, but it looks like he may be taking a short break. The squirrel is not finished with the alarm calls yet and wants to allow everyone in the area to know of this potential threat. But it's just very... Well, very good to hear that Connie, Vicky and Debbie all sent through some interesting comments about how funny this has been, and poor old Sindile mentioning one of the things was that he's brought all these people along to see him making a fool of himself, but we can certainly forgive him because he is a youngster. They're incredibly agile and so small and fast, and it's not to say that it is not possible for the leopard to catch it, but we must remember that all of the prey that they go after is usually a failure, even when the predators are adults. Let's try and get a bit closer. And enjoy some views of him recovering from that squirrel making an absolute fool of him. But all very, very useful training. That's going to be as good as we get for now. There's quite a few other branches obstructing him if we were to move around. So not very close, but still close enough to have a closer look. So enjoy. The flies are beginning to give him a hard time. Just like earlier we saw him snap out at one. Well, is it time for a siesta after your hunt? It could well. Well, for those of you who are new to the Safari Live show, one thing that we sometimes forget to mention is that cats spend incredibly long periods of each day asleep. Anywhere from 16 to 20 hours is the average amount of sleep that a cat will enjoy to have on a daily basis. So those little glimpses of magic like we've just witnessed are few and far between, especially during the daylight hours. It's important to realize what a great start we've got off to here. I don't actually ever think I've seen him climbing a tree very well, other than the half the size he is now. I think that was in March. He was very small, and there was some hyena below the tree that his mother had hoisted a kill into. It was an impala, a small impala, and I think that's what allowed her to hoist it up there, because it wasn't too big for her. And hyenas caught wind of the kill, and he was stuck up a knobthorn acacia for I think it was 3 full days without coming down. But I didn't actually get to see him climbing, and he was a lot smaller, so that was a great first for me with this specific leopard. You'll notice the squirrel has yet to stop calling. You can hear a brown-crowned chagra calling off in the distance, but it may be a bit far for the mics to pick up. And he's just taking you across to get a glimpse of the dwarf mongooses that are keeping on him. Well, we've just got a question through from Cecilia and Maryland. Good to have you with us, Cecilia. Cecilia is interested to know, what is more dangerous for Sindile, lions or other leopards? It's a tricky question to answer. Both male leopards that did not father Sindile and lions will equally try to kill him and eliminate him from this ecosystem. Male leopards will do so that they can release Shadow his responsibility, and therefore she'll come into season soon and they can mate with her. So that would be their goal and reason behind killing Sindile. Male or female lions would also both kill him, and that's simply to eliminate competition. Now, at this age, he is still under threat from male leopards, and they would still kill him. So it's probably equal, and I don't think you'd be able to sway either way, because there are just so many variables. In some cases, though, I have heard that male leopards will kill more young leopards than any other animal. So it's male leopards that are the primary threat to young cubs. So I think they are equally dangerous, but the benefits I guess he has is that by now he can climb trees quite well and therefore escape lion, whereas he will not be able to escape a male leopard. So that is why I guess a male leopard would therefore be more dangerous to him than lion. Lion he still has a very good chance of escaping from, as they are terrible climbers. Okay, well, let's see if we can reposition again. We don't have the best view from here. Okay. Scare him, so I'm just trying to creep in there as slowly as possible. Maybe a bit more. Wonderful. Well, I think I have just received my first question from somebody as young as 4 years of age. Hello, young Isabella, and I'm so happy to hear you watching the safari, and also that you got to see this young leopard climbing up in that tree earlier. Now, folks, Isabella would like to know, will young leopards ever fall out of trees? Too good a climber not to. Isabella, they certainly do fall out of trees sometimes. Not very often, but they do, especially when they're young and quite bold. They take chances, and it's often rotten logs that look quite big and strong that they jump onto, that give way, and the leopard and the log go flying down to the ground. I thought that may happen a bit earlier when he was resting on that fallen marula branch that was in the other tree that he was climbing in. And maybe in the next year or 18 months, and that's how long I think we will still see him fall, we will get to see him fall out of a tree. Not that we want him to, but I think it could well happen, because we are going to be able to spend so much time with him, hopefully. Isabella, I have also once seen a monkey falling out of a tree. So if monkeys, who are very good tree climbers, can fall out, then you can certainly that a leopard will also sometimes make the wrong move. Well, earlier Cecilia was asking whether lions or leopards pose a greater threat to young leopards, and we discussed that a little bit. And now we've just got another question through from Linda, and Linda's interested to know, while he is alone, what are his biggest challenges when his mother's away off hunting? What will he need to be safe? Good question, Linda. I don't think he has too many challenges, more so than when he is with his mother. He will still be alert when he's with his mother, and what may be his biggest challenge in these next few days that he could be away alone while his mother's away mating is possibly to keep himself full-bellied, not full-bellied, but keep himself content. So I think the likelihood of him trying to hunt will increase as he becomes more hungry. So that may be one challenge that he faces. Other than that, though, they are very hardy animals and can survive without food for quite some time, and also without water. So I guess his biggest challenge is to just keep himself busy and out of trouble. Okay, well, as I said earlier, Brent is also out with Brian, and they are wanting to say hello to all of you. So we will not be going anywhere, and we'll call you as soon as Sindile makes his next move.
Welcome on the Sunset Safari, everyone. My name is Brent, and I have Brian on camera with me at this Sunset Safari, and we're sitting with a breeding around us, and hopefully they're going to move out into the open a little bit. But while we're here, you can see the female feeding off a nice big acacia here, and the little guy's just about to start testing out his trunk, and you just see it as he's trying to sort of get involved with mom's feeding, even though he's very much dependent on mother's milk at the moment and probably doesn't have full function in his trunk yet, still learning how to use it properly. But they learn by playing, and that's what he's doing at the moment, fiddling and trying to use his trunk to grab little bits of leaf and that, but he hasn't quite got the coordination yet. To grab little bits of leaf and that, but he hasn't quite got the coordination yet. And for those of you who might be new viewers or wondering what this is, we are on a live African safari, and you are seeing these elephants at the same time Brian and I am, and also we are interactive, so you can ask us questions, and you can do that by emailing us wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So, as I said a bit earlier, the rest of the herd is still in the thickets and haven't moved through into the open yet. I'm sure they might. I can hear them. And if he comes up next to this female, like he might, we might be able to see the difference in head shape, or she doesn't look very comfortable with this young bull coming around. She immediately sort of just moved her head a little bit, and as I said, looks like he might be harassing her at the moment. Actually, that is just a very, very big female. You can see the head shape there is still quite angular. She's just a very large bodied female. And probably in terms of quite quickly, and sort of gave this female with those very, very long tusks right of way. You can see how thin those tusks are, and that's another way to see the females. The male, if he had tusks that length, would be much, much thicker. But she's just an incredibly big female, and there's a little calf, probably just between a year and a half and 2 years, coming up out of the drainage line to join her. And he's just, you'll see him, there we go, coming through. There we go, coming to join. And you'll see that the trunk there is far more dexterous, and he's got sort of control of it. So elephants have these incredible feet, and the structure of an elephant's foot is very interesting. So it's almost conical, and they do have 5 toes, but this very big spongy, and you can see the toenails there on the toes, but they're not as you would expect. They actually come from higher, and you can see that shape in the foot there. And Junebug from Dallas is wondering, do the elephants use their feet to feel vibrations? Well, Junebug, I don't think so. I think they definitely rely on their hearing most of all, and they can hear in decibels much lower than and higher than we can, and I think that's what they'll rely on. And even with the vibrations and stuff, you probably find they might pick it up with their ears rather than their feet. So I've never heard of them using their feet to pick up vibrations before. But speaking about the decibels that an elephant can hear, quite an interesting little fact is that, and most of the dinosaur noises, the velociraptors, the T-Rexes, all those scary sounds they make are slowed down or speeded up elephant noises. And elephants have a vast array of noises they can make, from trumpeting to screaming to almost growling, gurgling, purring. So they do have quite a vast vocal array, and Hollywood has used that many times for different things, and probably never with elephants. If you watch some of those wonderful old Hollywood movies, Mugambo and King Solomon's Mines, the Hollywood directors and producers there weren't so worried about being real to what is actually there, and you'll often find those African movies set in Africa will have Indian elephants They eat a vast amount of vegetable matter in a day. A big elephant bull. I'll be with you in a second. A little bit of misunderstanding there and caused a bit of pandemonium in my ear for a second. So it's something we don't see too often, and elephants do it from time to time. But Wendy from Florida, sunny Florida, full of alligators and whatnot, was wondering, what does it mean when an elephant is tusking the ground? You'll generally see them doing it in clay banks, and they will be looking for different minerals or salts from the ground, and that's what they do when they're tusking the ground. So if we have a look at that female with those nice long tusks, you can see her legs across there. And Lucy, one of our regulars from South Bend in Indiana, said she didn't realize that elephants crossed their legs so much when they were feeding. Well, Lucy, it looks quite comfortable, and I'm sure that's the reason they do it. Same reason we would cross our legs while we were sitting or resting. So I think it's just a comfort thing. I don't think there's any particular reason for them doing it, apart from the fact that it's probably very comfortable. So it's always a very peaceful, well, not always, but it is very nice when you do find a nice big peaceful herd like this, and you are able to just sit quietly and enjoy spending time with these magnificent animals. I've been very fortunate in my years in the bush to have spent a lot of time with elephants. And not only these savanna elephants that we're looking at now, but with forest elephants. I've even seen them on the beach. in Gabon in Central Africa. So if we look at these two adult females as Brian pans across, Deborah from Ontario in Canada. Hopefully you guys are having a nice warm summer in Ontario. You will notice that the hips seem to be quite protruding quite a bit compared to some of the younger ones. And Deborah was wondering whether it's lack of food or age. I would say it's probably age, judging both these females are quite old. I would say the one on the left is a bit older. I'm just going to try to sneak forward a little bit so we can have a look at her. Always very important to let the engine idle for a little bit before you move around elephants. You don't want to give them any sudden surprises. There we go. Now we can have a look at the others a bit better. So if we have a look at this female to the left, I would say she's the elder of the two, even though her tusks aren't as long. Some of the telltale signs, if we look at her head, specifically above her eye, you'll see those depressions start to really sink in. And if we look at her shoulder as well, you can see it is really sticking out, and her skin is looking a little bit baggy on her. So I think that is age. She's probably on her last set of teeth now, and having a young calf like that, this would probably be her last calf. So also very dry year. Having a young calf would also put added stress on her. So it could be a combination of age and, or definitely an age and not getting enough nutrients, but the nutrients is completely combined with the age. Being on her last set of teeth, she probably won't be able to get as much out of her meals as she used to. And elephants are incredibly poor at digesting what they do eat, and they only successfully digest about 40% of their food. That's why they have to eat such a vast amount on a daily basis. And that combined with their huge size. Discussing tusks as we were a little bit earlier, it's just such a pity we can't see. If we go underneath this female, we might just be able to make out the little tushes on that young elephant behind. But Dr. Debbie was wondering, can you tell the age of an elephant by sort of the tusks coming out? And you can. The first sort of visible tusk comes out just after a year, but after that it can be very difficult, as each individual elephant has a very different growth pattern for their tusks. That poor acacia has been absolutely decimated at the moment. But even though it looks like the elephants cause a lot of damage, I'm quite sure that that tree will bounce back during the rainy season, and it'll be sometimes actually very difficult to see that the elephants have even fed. And we have our drongo friend here, and we had quite a nice discussion about drongos and why we often find them around the animals we're viewing. So we're having a wonderful sighting with this group of savanna elephants, and Jimlin from Oklahoma would like to know, are there any very big noticeable differences between Indian forest? Well, I think that, if I remember correctly, they're no longer called Indian elephants. I think they're called Asiatic elephants now. But Asiatic elephants, African savanna elephants, and African forest elephants. So they are very, very much so, and